Time now for a look at what's been grabbing headlines here in France and around the world. And for that, we're joined here on set by Solange Mujan from our press review team. And Solange, as expected, the royal wedding set to take place in Windsor is high up the talking points in the papers.
It is indeed, but I'd like to start with something that is for people who aren't really interested in the royal wedding, a little something before they tune out. Now, it's a cartoon by Shabbat in the New York Times, and it basically tells news watchers to just hold on a little longer, that the media frenzy for the royal wedding is almost over. You have a kind of grumpy man over there saying, I'm looking forward to the happy ending of this 24/7 news coverage.
But there are those, like me, that are very much looking forward to this big day between Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
Yeah, the excitement can pretty much be felt across the British press this morning. The Guardian says it won't be long now, and the Daily Telegraph wonders who will walk Meghan Markle down the aisle. Now, most bets are on the notion that Miss Markle's mother will walk her down the aisle after all of the hubbub and the scandal about her father cooperating with the paparazzi and selling images of himself to journalists. Now, he won't be attending the wedding because he says he's ill. The Times and the British press is trying to move on from this whole scandal. And the Times says that they're trying to shift focus, and they say that Miss Markle's mother has been charming senior royals. She met the Queen yesterday.
Now, the British press aren't the only ones to be somewhat all of a flutter about this. As you can see here on Le Figaro this Friday morning, the royal wedding is also a splash here in France.
Yeah, Le Figaro says that the royal wedding is shaking things up. Now, they're referring to the fact that Miss Markle is biracial and that she's American. And in an editorial below the fold, the paper calls the event a royal parenthesis. It says that while we may mock the royal wedding publicly, most of us are actually following it quite closely behind closed doors. And that may be because the paper argues that it evokes something stable, permanent, and unifying for us all, Brits and non-Brits.
Now, moving away from the royal wedding, a vote was held yesterday in Burundi that could, if it is passed, keep the president there in power until 2034.
Yeah, the votes are still being counted at the moment, but the referendum is likely to pass. The opposition boycotted the vote, but you won't see much criticism in the Burundi press. The farthest it went, or that I could see, was complaints shown in this Burundi weekly, Iwaku. Its website says that voters were complaining about the lack of diversity of political supervisors, that most of them were from the majority ruling party. And it's important to note as well that there were no international observers at the vote. They weren't invited to take part. Now, of course, this lack of dissent in the press is partially due to the fact that censorship is quite widespread in the East African nation.
If you want to know more about this vote, where should we head?
Yeah, let me point you in the direction of two articles. The first is from Jeune Afrique. It explains that in Burundi there is a climate of intimidation, one where those that oppose the referendum to the constitution will, quote, suffer the consequences. My colleagues also at France 24's website have an article about the president of Burundi, and they wonder if he's setting himself up to be, rather than president, the king of the country.
And finally, Solange, you found an article in the New York Times that may interest those of our viewers who may feel they don't know who or how to accept a compliment.
Yeah,
that's me included.
Yeah, me too. But it's actually an opinion piece that could serve even people who think they know they can accept a compliment. Carol Boycer goes into all of the ways that people react to compliments. They shift the credit, they downgrade them, they treat them as a request. And then she asks, what is really behind a compliment? Well, there's praise, of course, but she also wonders. She also says that they are, quote, coded linguistic invitations. That they are much more than praise. They are an invitation to talk and to small talk and to chit-chat, basically.
Thanks very much, Solange. You're back in about 2 hours' time with another press review. Thanks very much. Well, I'm back after the break with more world news here on France 24.